Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to today's session from SolarWinds. Delighted that you can all join us on this day in October 20th. Okay, so just do some introductions. My name is John O'Callaghan. I look after international product marketing based in Cork in Ireland. And today we've got the three musketeers with us. We've got great old Sasha Giese from Berlin. Sasha, how are you? Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. I'm very good. Thank you.
I can't remember. D'Artagnan, is it? Is that the name of it?
D'Artagnan.
There you go. You're the German-French musketeer. There you go. Also joining us today, we've got Dr. Tony Johnson. How are you, Tony?
Good morning, John. Very good, thanks.
And Tony will bring us through all things Orion in a little while. And also Hassan. Good morning to you, Hassan. How are you?
Hi, John. How are you doing? So far, so good.
Good stuff. And Hassan is going to bring us through some demonstrations later on of the topics we're going to talk about. First of all, if you've got any questions, please feel free to send them through on the Q&A or the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer all of those before the end of the event. If you're using SolarWinds technology today, please feel free to send us feedback. We love getting feedback because that goes straight up to Tony, and Tony comes up with some amazing new features based on that. But yeah, seriously, jump on the SolarWinds TWAC online community. You can register there, and there is a great opportunity to provide feedback. And you can also put in feature requests, actually, which is really cool. So today we're going to talk about how we optimize your network bandwidth with detailed traffic analysis. So obviously, in today's world, network bandwidth has become an extremely important resource for organizations, but everybody working from home for the most part. I know some countries are kind of easing back into things like New Zealand. Ireland has just gone back into lockdown again, so we're going to have a lot more people working from home again in the next few weeks. So we're going to have this ebb and flow of network bandwidth utilization over the coming months as well. Hopefully not the coming years. So basically when we look at things like issues within digital performance, typically around 29-30% of an IT team's time, so that 3 times quickly, is spent dealing with digital performance issues. So that's a lot of time taken out from the team where they could be spending on kind of better projects or more important projects and kind of advancing the cause of the company or the organization. The associated cost to that is about $2.5 million on average per customer. Now, of course, that will vary widely because SMBs, small companies, will have a much smaller impact. Very, very large enterprises may have bigger impacts, so that's just the average number there. So what's important is to be able to monitor the full stack upon which the key things of applications run, and also being able to kind of align processes and people, not just in the monitoring and alerting, but also into the service management piece as well, and also deploying and operating security controls across those pillars of IT as well. And of course, if we can do all of that in a way that's affordable, and also if we can provide time to value very quickly, then that's all beneficial for you guys. If you haven't seen this before, this is the SolarWinds IT Operations Management Portfolio, or a framework as we like to call it. It's got 6 main pillars in here. So across the top there you can see the service management. And of course, if somebody does have bandwidth issues, the first thing they might do is raise a ticket. That ticket will go into a service management environment. If there's an alert coming from the Orion platform in relation to bandwidth issues as well, that can also be triggered into an incident, into either our own service desk or also into an organization like ServiceNow or whatever. The 4 orange pillars then are the kind of the IT stack monitoring, analysis, management there. So application performance management, really, really important. And one big thing which we'll look at in a little while in the demo is how we can use NTA to potentially look at application outage. So if a flow suddenly stops from an application, we can identify that. We've also got database performance management capabilities, of course, for all of the traditional relational databases, and also including now some of the NoSQL open source type databases out there like MongoDB, Redis, etc. Infrastructure management is going to be your usual infrastructure management for servers, whether they're physical or virtual, your storage arrays, the Dell storage arrays, EMC storage arrays, Hitachi, NetApp, you name it, all in there as well. And of course, the glue that holds everything together is the network side of things. And again, people utilizing networks like never before now around the world. On the right-hand side then, you can see the green pillar, the IT security pillar, because security is going to permeate across all of these different layers. and we've got solutions for a SIEM solution. We've got a solution for user permissions management or access rights management. We've got identity protection management and also patch management, and a lot of configuration and compliance tools as well, both for servers, databases, and networks. And the benefit of these things, if somebody's got an integrated monitoring solution, we can provide lots of benefits by ticking all the boxes basically. So you can see here some key numbers. So if somebody's using a SolarWinds solution, typically they're going to have a 22% reduction in incidents on average, and they're also going to have a 22% decrease in the mean time to resolution. Now that's important. So if we take an example of a customer, let's say they have 100 incidents that they need to manage. By using SolarWinds, we can on average reduce that down to 78 incidents, and by using the 22% time to resolution benefits, those 78 incidents will be solved 22% faster. So great benefits there, and of course all of that will add up to cost as well. Another important one is customer experience. So one thing that we can help organizations manage is the level of customer experience that customers are having, and of course that's based on the customer experience chain, which includes all of the elements, including the mobile application that the customer is logging into, or the web app, or the website, the network that they need to connect to get to that, the database that support those applications, or a back-end application that might be supporting the WebEx and so on, and right through into the database, the servers, the virtual machines, the storage, and back out again. So that full kind of circle has to be monitored as best as possible. And if people do that, typically they'll see an 18% improvement in customer experience metrics such as CSAT, CES, and an important one, the Net Promoter Score, NPS. And typically that's down to like a single question. Would you recommend this particular company, product, service to a third party? And I think you have to score over 7 to get an award in that. For example, when they were asking the question, would I recommend Tony Johnson, for example, as an Orion platform expert, I gave him a 3, I think. I'm not sure.
3 out of 3.
3 out of 3, yeah. I think he went in and did some coding and changed the metric. Of course, Tony, you'd be getting an 11 out of 10, as we all know.
Yeah.
So security and compliance, so protection against regulatory penalties as well. So again, these can be quite significant. With things like GDPR, companies have the threat of a percentage of their revenues or income as a penalty. Not sure how many companies have received those fines, but I know there's been a few floating around. But any breach can cause issues in relation to regulatory issues and fines and so on. And of course, a big one is the eliminating costs based on the loss of reputation. So if an application fails and customers can't access it for a period of time or an extended outage, then that has significant reputational impacts, which is typically the highest level of impact that you will see out there. And of course, NetFlow bandwidth management is key to that, because if we over subscribe to the bandwidth and we have kind of bandwidth delays as a result of that, or network delays, then that's going to impact your applications and so on. And then more direct costs as well, so things like number of hours saved with automation. So if somebody's got 5, 6, 10, 15, 20 different monitoring tools and they don't talk to each other, it's very inefficient in terms of process. So things like having an integrated solution like the Orion platform with multiple products on it, you can save time just by automating those simple tasks of creating the alerts, creating the automated responses, etc. So on average, we're saving about 11.5 hours per week just on the automation tasks. And typically then we eliminate 3 monitoring tools as well from an organization. So some studies have suggested that large enterprises have between 8 and 25 network monitoring tools just in the network side of it. So anything we can do to help eliminate excess monitoring tools is going to be good, and that will have additional benefits such as fewer contracts, fewer vendors, training, and so on. And of course, the soft benefit to the teams using it is they're all working from the same screens, the same dashboard, and so on. Okay, and here's some kind of example impacts that we've had. Downtime is close to 0. That's a good one. And that's specifically in relation to NetFlow Traffic Analyzer, which we will talk about in a few minutes. My favorite slide of all is really just to simplify, what we're trying to do is really reduce complexity. On the left-hand side, a company who has lots of different products doing lots of different monitoring. They're not talking to each other. They've got on-premise environments. They've got cloud environments. They've got, different networks, software-defined networks, and all these other types of networks, applications, etc., etc., etc. But that's a complex world, and we want to really make that as simple as possible.
That's my favorite slide too, John.
Nice colors, isn't it?
It is, but when we talk to our customers, very often their disciplines don't lie just in network management or systems management, but rather they would identify as IT operations admins, or being responsible for the entire IT operations. And that diagram there really, I suppose, constructs the complexity that's involved for those managing multiple areas of technology, regardless of the size of the company. So whether you take a small organization, with a headcount in 10 to 15 staff members working remotely or in an office, all of those elements of infrastructure and cloud and SaaS all come together to support the entire organization.
Exactly. You can imagine if, like, Captain Kirk didn't have an integrated solution, the photons might fire off, and Scotty might get very upset. Okay, so let's get into the NetFlow Traffic Analyzer solution, and we're also going to throw in Log Analyzer here as well. So, Sasha, do you want to take us through this slide here, just to give us a little bit of background to what exactly NTA is and what type of capabilities the product has?
Sure. So NTA, which is NetFlow Traffic Analyzer, is usually the first add-on a customer will get who's already using Network Performance Monitor. Actually, it's somewhere on the slide at the bottom, requires NPM. So NPM is a requirement for Network Traffic Analyzer. Okay. So what it does is, in the way that NPM would tell you there's like a high utilization on an uplink, for example, like there's like 90% utilization, NTA will give you the reasons for that. And that could be too many people watching YouTube all day, like Tony and me would do, right? It could be weird servers talking to each other in different offices, and the intelligence gained about the traffic that's actually happening inside the network is super beneficial for optimizing stuff, for troubleshooting stuff, for fixing things. Now, we use a standard flow protocol. The official name is IPFix, but everyone knows it under NetFlow. It's an old protocol based on Cisco, but each vendor has their own protocols. They're basically the same. What I would like to point out is, if someone is using a Cisco environment, we do have support for NBAR on board too, which is a deep packet inspection based on Cisco devices, which will give a little bit more information about what's happening, as flow protocols will only pick numbers like port usage, like protocol usage, etc. And the packet inspection will provide a little bit more information. What we also have not here on the slide is actually the latest update, which came out 3-4 months ago, I think. We added support for vSphere distributed switches, so VDS, right? And that is obviously huge for anyone sitting in a data center, because we will use the VDS infrastructure and get flow information from the host. So much more insight as of what's happening in the host network. That's pretty much it, and we will see it live in a few minutes.
Super stuff. And also, just to throw in here, log collection and analysis, which of course is very important as well, and we've got that integrated to the Orion platform. So Tony, do you want to bring us through Log Analyzer, kind of key points?
Sure, John, no problem at all. So Log Analyzer is a component of the Orion platform that allows users to visually inspect and view logs from multiple sources. So not just syslog from your network devices, but also Windows event collection and analysis, as well as those who have our virtualization manager, the ability to collect VMware events. When it comes to getting real-time kind of updates and notification of events across your infrastructure, logs are the best way to do that, right? So rather than polling information on a 10 or 15-minute basis, logs allow you to readily take action in the event of an interface being unplugged, perhaps an application or service stopping, or an event occurring on your virtual infrastructure that might require immediate action. So correlating those logs with the performance information and metrics that you're collecting is exposed via a platform feature called PerfStack. PerfStack is a drag and drop interface that allows us to look at multiple metrics across multiple entities, and for those that are providing log information, we are able to visually search those logs against those data points. So if, for example, I have high CPU on a server, which results in a service stopping or becoming unresponsive, and we see that in the Windows event logs, we have that correlation now between high CPU and an application going into an unreachable state. So it's quite an important aspect of IT operations management is collecting and reacting on those logs. So rather than providing a long-term archiving solution, the log analyzer component is really designed around short-term retention in the order of a number of days for the purposes of more speedily notifying you of events of interest and also helping you to more fastly and readily investigate performance issues.
Super stuff. And moving on there, you mentioned Orion, of course, and I know we've recently announced scalability improvements on the platform as well. So do you want to bring us through some of that?
Yeah, so scalability really is critical to kind of larger organizations or those that may form through companies merging. But really reaching the kind of complex topologies that the customers may have and the need for additional polling engines to facilitate multiple locations, but also scale really when we're looking at hundreds of thousands of network elements or very large flow data being sent from network devices in the order of 50,000 flows per second can be processed by a single polling engine up to a maximum of 300,000 flows per second across a maximum of 6 polling engines. But that is really at the very highest levels of what we see. We're talking about organizations with thousands of users to kind of generate those number of flows per second. But scale really is driven primarily by your use of the product, how many applications are you monitoring, how many network devices, and as those numbers go up, the ability to kind of load balance and remotely collect that data is done through the use of additional polling engines.
Good stuff. And of course, we also have high availability as well. So this is getting into the kind of much larger deployments now, where people see their Orion platform as an absolutely critical asset.
Yep.
It's also like, if you look at the history, so for someone who sees these slides for the first time, it might be like, okay, this is huge. This is not my cup of tea. But we are in the market since for 20 years, and many customers are with us for all that year. So the organizations grew, and obviously we have to support their increased need for a monitoring system. And there we are now with a really, really huge and scalable platform.
Yeah, and when it comes to high availability, regardless really of the size of the organization, but John is right, monitoring, could be considered a tier 1 application, just as important as something like Active Directory or your Exchange servers or your database servers to give you that visibility across all of your IT infrastructure. So to have that redundant and highly available is very important. I think that the one point to take away from this slide is that the SolarWinds offers its own high availability product for the Orion servers, but not the SQL database. So customers have that flexibility to implement their own SQL architecture, whether that's traditional on-prem or something in Azure or AWS. Orion really doesn't, pay much heed as to where or how the database is architected, but high availability for your critical Orion servers is done on a per server basis.
Yeah, if only Captain Kirk had all of this technology, huh?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, he could have analyzed the captain's log. He could have done everything. Right, amazing. Okay, so let's move into the demo and have a look at some of this stuff. So Hassan, I'm going to make you the presenter, and you can bring us through NetFlow Traffic Analyzer and Log Analyzer.
Okay.
You are in control.
Go. Yeah. You see my screen?
Yeah, you're up and running.
Good. All right. Hello, everybody. This is Hassan from the sales engineering team. What I'm showing here is NetFlow Traffic Analyzer screen. Basically, NetFlow is the technology that we utilize from the devices that you have. So instead of doing sniffing all over your network to know what's happening inside the network, we utilize those vendors. They provide technology within their devices that sends traffic information for what is happening within the device. So, for example, a certain device will send information related to IPs, source and destinations, the number of packets, the number of bytes, and also the application and the protocols that are traversing through the port itself. So on the right here, you can see the NetFlow sources that we are receiving the information from. And on the rest of the screen, you will see the results of the data that we have received. We're storing in the database, and then we are showing it here. Right now, what we are seeing here is for the last 1 hour, the conversation and the endpoints. Also, you will see the applications information. This information is very critical for us to know. For example, the performance management can tell you there you have a high utilized network interface. For example, if there's a baseline, suppose it was running for, let's say, 50% utilization for the last, let's say, 3 days, and then suddenly it came to 80%. And the only way for you to know what happened there is by having NetFlow to send the data to NTA software, and then we'll be able you will be able to see what exactly happened there by looking at who is talking in those interfaces, and also what are the top endpoints that are traversing there, that are let's say taking that traffic. You'll see also the number of bytes, the number of packets. What's most important thing to know there is what are the applications that your users are using, or your servers are utilizing your network on. And you will be able to see the ports, for example, if it is an HTTP port, or if it is an SQL server related port, and so on. Also, if you have Cisco MBAR, it's possible to enable MBAR, and then you will be able to see even higher level data. Like, for example, if somebody is using Netflix or YouTube or Office type of traffic, it will be there. So this is overall network, but also you can be more granular there. You can do a filtering, so you can filter by, for example, the application port. You can filter by the endpoint name. You can also have IP address groups. This is something that you customize, and you customize it to the software. You can have different IP groups, for example, for each department or for each building, and then you'll be able to zoom into to see what exactly those groups are utilizing in your network. You can even have something called IP group conversations to see what are the traffic between these two groups. One quick way to do this, to search, for example, for a certain application, you can, for example, say, I want to look for port 80. What the application port 80, for example, what are the traffic for the port 80? So if you search that, then you'll be able to see exactly what this port 80 working in, looking, let's say the traffic that is using the port 80 in your network. You'll be able to see the transmitter who are using port 80, the receivers, and the protocols, and also the traffic sources by countries. So this is basically the quick summary of what you're going to see from the NTA. The next to show you is the log analyzer. So the log analyzer, the way to reach to the log analyzer is from the menu here, from the dashboard logs, or within the device that you are looking at. You can go to the device itself, and then you will see there it says performance analyzer. Sorry, you will see here it says analyze log. So what you're going to see, you will see a histogram. This is the for the last hour. Of course, you can change that, and you will see the histogram with the last hour. What are the number of events that has been arriving? You will see all the events coming here. When you click on an event, you will get more details about that event, explaining all the event information. Of course, you can do some more filtering here, like by the node name or by the tags. We are using this tagging to let's say zoom on certain issues that happen. For example, if this log is coming related to interface down or a login issue or so on. So it's possible to do also filtering when you are let's say filtering something, and you can also export the output using the export let's say button here. Also, you can do a start live mode, so you will be able to see more. Let's say you will be able to see the events in real time mode. Of course, also we have something to do with the you can configure your own rules. Also, it's possible to have customized rules in order to take actions when certain things happen within your network. One thing to show you also here is while you are utilizing, let's say, doing some diagnostic. So you will go to, for example, you will go to your node, and then you will click this. So this is the node. Sorry, this is the node display. So you have found out there's something wrong, and you need to know, let's say, what is wrong with that. So you will go to the analyze log for the logs, but also you can go to performance analyzer to see, let's say, the traffic. What I want to point out here, two things related to the network traffic, net flow traffic analyzer and the log event manager, is that you can see while you are looking at the KPIs of the traffic, for example, like the CPU, memory, and so on. You can also at the same time, if you have log viewer installed, then you can go to the status button here, and then you can see the syslog. So you just take and drag it. From there, you will be able to correlate events happening, or let's say the statistics that we are collecting for the node with the events that are coming from the node itself through syslog. So this is a very nice feature that will allow you to see the actual events came from the node while you are troubleshooting other issues or KPIs related to that specific node. Also, you can also see things related from information collected by the NTA, Net Flow Traffic Analyzer, from within the perf stack. So we can, let's say, pick, for example, a certain KPI that is collected from the net flow related to the traffic, and also have it in the same display.
Super stuff. And what's really key here is that we're talking about kind of integration heavily here. And when you think about this, not just from the net flow side of things and from collecting logs, but also from all of the other modules that you can get within the Orion platform. And when we talk around kind of consolidation and savings and efficiencies, I think this really kind of brings it home. So fantastic demonstration there. Thank you very much indeed. And of course, it's not just around the products; it's also around how can we help you get going and give you get value to you quickly as a customer. So one of the services we offer is Smart Start, and this is to help customers kind of get the value of the product in a very short space of time. We like to say in SolarWinds that we bring value to customers in hours and days, not weeks, months, and years, right? Certainly not months and years anyway. But we want to make sure that when you do invest in a SolarWinds solution, that you get to use it very quickly, you get the value of that product very quickly, and that you can consider kind of adding more to that and doing more consolidation with SolarWinds as you go forward as well. So you can see some of the steps here, kind of get started to introduce you to an expert. We can help you review the environment, review your IT management goals, prioritize how to move forward, scheduling configuration sessions and installation, and then helping you to optimize that as well. And I know Sasha and Tony, you guys have been involved in some of these kind of Smart Start programs in the past, so maybe you can just give one or two examples of where it worked really well for a customer.
Yeah, I suppose given the experience that SolarWinds have across multiple deployments and all customers of varying sizes, very often we're asked, well, what is best practice for me or my organization? And there's never really, a clear answer on that, because what works for one will not work for another. But really the experience we have allows us to kind of make valuable recommendations on, policies, configuration of alerting, reports that may be of interest given the profile of the customer, down to kind of user management and permissions. So getting your Orion instance up with the correct level of access for those consumers, whether they need admin rights, whether they need the permission to customize views. But the feedback that we've gotten really is tremendous in that it rapidly allows organizations to deploy Orion, gain that benefit in a relatively short time frame.
Super stuff. And then something very close to Sasha's heart is the SolarWinds Academy and the SCPs. How many SCPs do you have now, Sasha?
Oh, I'm still stuck with 5, I think.
Just 5, yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
So do you want to give a quick one? I mean, you've obviously gone through the process, so maybe give the people online kind of an understanding of what SCP is and why it's important.
I can talk about it, but I guess you're sharing a slide. I don't see it. I still see demo. But SCP is the SolarWinds Certified Professional, which is basically our own technical certification. And yes, there we are. There it is.
I forgot to move the ball back.
No worries. No worries.
User error. There you go.
No worries. So as you see there on the screen, there's a few different ones, 8, if I'm not mistaken. And this is based on the technology and also the product based, right? Although the NPM for Network Performance Monitor is considered as, let's say basic, as in regards to it will also tell you a little bit about network technology, which is required to understand the product. So this is really useful for the administrators who would deal with the SolarWinds product on a daily basis, because you get more knowledge about the product, how does it work, how can I fine-tune it. And it's also helpful in case you need to get in touch with our support team. If they see that you got 1 or 2 or more of those badges in your profile, they usually know they talk to someone who has a good understanding, and that will speed up the conversations with customer support. But also, it's stuff that you could put on your own CVs on LinkedIn or wherever, and tell potentially new employers that you are able, well, more than just able to deal with a SolarWinds deployment.
Absolutely, yeah. And I did have a slide on SmartSide, I do promise. So very funny. I thought the slide was displaying there.
We are professionals. We don't need the slides. Because of
and of course, we talk about TWAC quite a lot. We've got the upcoming TWAC camp, right, which is in November timeframe. So, Sasha, again, I know you're heavily involved in the TWAC camp planning and some of the sessions itself. So, do you want to give the people online an overview of what TWAC camp is and what's going on there?
Absolutely. So we were ahead of the times. Our own events were virtual since 2015 or whatever. So this is not a new trend for us. It has always been virtual. And it's basically, we call it a knowledge fest this time. So there's lots of SolarWinds knowledge to gain. There's technology knowledge. There's topics which are interesting for anyone working in IT, but not necessarily technological topics. So it's like a couple of hours video recordings, which are exclusive for those for this event, and there's a live chat with all of us. So folks who join the sessions have questions, we answer the questions live. There's lots of interesting things to win, and it's, I think, 12th or 13th of November, if I'm not mistaken. The date is not on the slide here, but somewhere there.
Yep. So if you do a search for TWAC Camp 2020, you'll probably find a registration link for that. I think there, typically between 5,000 or 6,000 people register for this, so it's quite a big event, an annual event that SolarWinds has been running. And another part of the SolarWinds Customer Success Program, of course, is the support services. So if you've got any tickets you want to raise, you can contact us 24/7, 365. We've got support centers across the world. And of course, for customer services as well, if you've got if you want a query on your license or whatever the case might be, you need resets or whatever, you can do that as well through the support center. Okay, so with that, SolarWinds as an organization, we have our mantras that we like to talk to customers about. Easy to use. We don't want to have you spend a lot of your time kind of having to configure and manage things. You want to make it as simple as possible out of the box, that you can just put it in, run it, and get it up and running as fast as possible. Scalability, we've talked about that. So we've got solutions for SMB companies, an organization where there might be just one IT guy or girl running the show. They're running SolarWinds solutions right up to the very largest enterprises around the world. And of course, we also like to position ourselves as the best value for money in the marketplace. You can work with SolarWinds and our partners around the world in a number of different ways. You can have kind of a fix a problem idea. So if you've got an issue with monitoring a database or monitoring an application or a network device or a server or a virtual machine or a cloud environment or whatever, we've got a solution within our portfolio that will quickly get you up and running in terms of monitoring and analyzing or managing those environments. And then you can start looking at kind of an integration approach as well. So kind of looking at integrating multiple products together, do that consolidation, get that single pane of glass as well. And then eventually, from a strategic perspective, maybe create a mission statement around IT operations management over like a 2, 3, 4 year time period, and really look at getting full stack visibility for not just on-premise but also cloud environments using the comprehensive ITOM portfolio that SolarWinds can bring to the marketplace. Okay, so with that, thank you very much indeed for your attendance today. Short and sweet, just about 35 minutes in total there. And, it just leaves me to say thank you very much to my colleagues, Sasha, Tony, Hassan, and also Grania in the background there moderating. We have lots of other webcasts planned for the remainder of this year and into 2021. So we look forward to seeing you on those in the not too distant future. So with that, take care.